I was living in this small apartment in the middle of the city with my wife. One weekend, my wife decided to visit her family, and I found myself alone at home. I thought I would enjoy the peace and quiet after a hard work week. It was late on Saturday night when I was sitting on our couch, engrossed in a book. It was one of those that keep you on the edge of your seat. I was so immersed in the story that I didn't notice much else. Somewhere in the background, I heard this sound coming from the hallway outside of our apartment. At first, I didn't pay any attention to this and continued to read my book in depth. But then it was there again. It sounded strange somehow. It was like a weird dragging sound, and I couldn't blend it out anymore as it occurred too regularly. I thought it was just the wind, or maybe the neighbors moving furniture. I shrugged it off and continued reading. But then, the sound kept getting louder and it came closer. It became more distinct and disturbing. It sounded like nails on a chalkboard or bones on a concrete floor. Then I thought that it sounded like someone was pulling himself along, like was being hurt or something. There was a faint scraping noise, barely audible at first. It made me shiver. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I put down the book and got up from the couch. I walked towards the door, feeling a sense of dread. I wondered who or what was making that sound, and whether any of my neighbors did hear it too. But nothing to hear outside, besides this strange dragging sound. I wondered if I should open the door or not. What if somebody was hurt? Probably there was a simple and reasonable explanation for that, I told myself. I decided to check it out. I opened the door, and to my great horror, I saw a trail of blood in the corridor that led this strange figure at the end of the hallway. It was a man. He was hunched over, dragging his foot, and leaving a trail of blood behind. It was a chilling sight. I called out to him, asked if he needed help. I just wanted to walk towards him, but just at that moment, he abruptly turned around. He looked rough, his clothes all torn and dirty. He started to limp towards me, slowly but steadily. I could see the madness in his eyes, the malice in his grin. And then I saw it, a knife in his hand. I felt a surge of fear and panic. I had no idea who he was or what he wanted. I wanted to slam the door and run, but I was frozen in place. I had to act fast or I was done for. Finally, I was able to gather myself, and I slammed the door and pushed our kitchen table against it. I hoped it would hold him off. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I told them there was an intruder in my apartment, armed and dangerous. I begged them to hurry. I heard him banging on the door, trying to break it down. He was shouting something, but I couldn't make out the words. He sounded angry, desperate, insane. I backed away from the door, looking for a place to hide. I was terrified. I prayed that the police would arrive soon. But then the banging stopped, and everything went quiet. I waited, holding my breath. I wondered if he had given up, or if he was waiting for me to open the door. I didn't dare to move. I stayed still, hoping he was gone. After what seemed like an eternity, I heard sirens outside. I heard footsteps in the hallway, and someone knock on the door. "Police! Open up!" a voice said. I felt a wave of relief. I got up and moved the table. I opened the door and saw him standing there, with two other officers. They looked concerned. "Are you okay?" he asked me. Yes, I'm okay," I said, shaking. "But he's still here. He's in the hallway. He has a knife. He tried to kill me." I pointed to where I had seen the figure. But there was no one there. The police searched the whole building, but they couldn't find him. They asked me to describe him, but I couldn't remember much besides his dirty, worn-out clothes and the serious injury. They asked me if I had any idea why he would target me, but I didn't. I had no clue. It made no sense. The police said they would investigate, but they didn't seem hopeful. They said it was probably a random attack, a case of wrong place, wrong time. Probably a junkie who snuck in with the garbage truck or so. He was probably injured during an accident or got in fight on the streets while being high. We never got any answers about the intruder, but moving to another apartment in a safer part of the city helped a lot. We finally felt more secure and started to live again. I had always been a shy and lonely person. I didn't have many friends, and I spent most of my time online. I liked to chat with strangers, to pretend I was someone else, someone more interesting, more confident, more attractive. It was a way of escaping my boring and miserable reality. That's how I met Blake. Blake was one of those people who seemed to have it all. He was smart, funny, charming, and handsome. He had a lot of hobbies and interests, and he always had something to say. He was the perfect online friend. We connected on a chat app, and we hit it off right away. We had a lot in common, and we could talk for hours. We started to chat every day, and soon we exchanged phone numbers. We texted each other constantly, and we even called each other sometimes. He had a deep and soothing voice, and he always knew what to say. He was supportive, encouraging, and caring. Basically, he was everything I ever wanted in a friend or a boyfriend. I even thought he was my soulmate. He told me that he lived in a different city, but hoped we could meet someday. Expressing feelings beyond friendship, he once even admitted to loving me. Back then, I was foolish and couldn't see clearly, thinking I loved him too. It felt like I hit the jackpot, finding the perfect person online, a real miracle. But then, things got really strange. Unusual stuff started happening and doubts crept in. It all kicked off with a photo. One day, he sent me a selfie. He looked gorgeous, as always, with his bright smile, sparkling eyes, and a cute dimple. He was wearing a blue shirt, and he wore a necklace. He said he wanted me to see how he looked that day, and he asked me to send him a picture too. I hesitated. That was a new level, but blindly in love I agreed. I wanted to please him, to make him happy. I took a quick selfie and sent it to him. He replied with a heart emoji, and he said I looked beautiful. He said he wished he could be with me, to hug me, to kiss me. He said he missed me. I felt a warm and fuzzy feeling in my chest. I missed him too. I looked at his picture being completely in love and thinking of how it will be when we meet. Then I noticed something odd. In his picture, there was a reflection in his glasses. It looked like a window. I zoomed in. Then I could see a building outside. It was a tall and modern, with a lot of glass and metal. It looked familiar to me, exactly like the one across the where I can look right at when I turn my head to the right-hand side. I zoomed further in on the picture, and I saw it more clearly. It was the same building. I recognized the shape, the color, and other details. It was unmistakable. It was the building I saw every day from my window. I felt a chill down my spine. How was that possible? He must clearly be in the same city as me, even in the same neighborhood, in the same street. How could he be so close to me without telling me? I felt so damn stupid. He played with me. Of course he was a creep, I thought. But after some time, I did not want to let him go. I told myself there must be an explanation for that. So I texted him, and I asked him where he was. When he answered that he was at home in his city, I asked him directly why he was lying, and I knew he was in my city, and that he was watching me. I waited for his reply, but he didn't answer. He went offline, deleted his profiles. Of course, he also did not pick up the phone. He had ghosted me, with a broken my heart, and completely in fear. I felt betrayed, hurt, and humiliated. I had fallen for a liar, a manipulator, a psychopath. I had trusted him, opened up to this psychopath. I cried, threw my phone across the room, and buried my face in the pillow. I wished I had never met him despite being scared. I was too embarrassed to call the police. What would they do? I thought laugh at the stupid little girl. So I decided to live on. But he wasn't done with me. He had one more evil surprise. That night I was lying in my bed trying to sleep, but I couldn't. I was too restless and too anxious. I kept thinking about him, about his picture and this reflection. I kept wondering where he was, what he wanted, what he would do. Then I heard a noise. It was coming from the closet. I felt a jolt of terror. I was immediately sure it was him. I could feel a presence without wasting time. I started running out of the bedroom and slammed the door. Lucky for me, I have that small ladder always being there right before my bedroom, as I never put it away so often. I ran into it in the dark. This time, I was so glad it was there. I wedged the little ladder against the handle of my bedroom door. Then I ran outside and called 911. Fear was stronger than the embarrassment of what had happened to me. The police arrived immediately, and when they entered my bedroom, they discovered the unimaginable. My stalker was locked in there, to my horror. They discovered that he was a wanted criminal, involved in extortion and assault cases against women in 2 different states. The police emphasized how lucky I was to escape unharmed, as the danger lurking in my own home was beyond comprehension. Grateful for their intervention. I decided to leave the world of online dating behind and opt for a fresh start free from the shadows of a past that could have taken a much darker turn. It was a night like any other. I was alone in my apartment while my boyfriend was out of town for work. I had nothing to do, so I decided to watch some series and order sushi. But trouble came knocking on the door, literally. Around 11 p.m., I heard a loud bang on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw a man wearing a baseball cap that covered his eyes and a beard that hid his mouth. I noticed a crowbar in his hand. He said he was a plumber and that he needed to fix a leak. He said it was an emergency and that I had to let him in. I immediately was sure that letting him in was not a good idea, but I did not want to be impolite. So I told him I needed to change my clothes, since I was in my pajamas, and as a woman I feel better with more cloths on. I hoped he would buy my excuse and leave me alone. I called the landlord and told him what was happening. He said he did not send any plumber, and that it was probably a scam. He said I should call the police immediately, and that he would be there as soon as possible. He said I should be very careful. I opened my smart home app. I had installed several smart devices in my apartment, such as cameras, lights, speakers, and locks. I checked the cameras and saw that the man was still at the door. He looked angry and impatient. Then I called the police immediately. Afterwards, I had a look at the cameras again and saw that the man had moved to the back of the apartment. He was trying to break the window with his crowbar. At first, I did not know what to do or how to react. I was alone and vulnerable, and I had no way of defending myself. Then I remembered that I had installed all that fancy smart devices and connected them to the app on my phone, which allowed me to control the lights, the speakers, and the security cameras in my apartment. I quickly opened the app and turned on all the lights in the apartment, and also played a loud alarm sound through the speakers, hoping to frighten him and alert the neighbors. On the camera feed, I saw that he was shocked and confused by the sudden noise and brightness. He dropped his crowbar and ran towards the exit. He jumped over the fence that surrounded the apartment complex and disappeared into the street. Then I saw him driving away. I was able to read the license plate number on his car and wrote it down quickly. I checked the cameras again and saw that he was gone for good. There was no sign of him or his car. I breathed a sigh of relief and felt a wave of gratitude. I waited for the police and the landlord